Chief, everybody's ready on your side? Good. Gentlemen, you ready at the back? Thank you. So good morning, everybody. I'm going to call this Police Services meeting to order. I'm Bill Steele, Chair of the Police Services Board. At this time, we'll have our land acknowledgement statement. We begin the meeting this morning by acknowledging the Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Regional Municipality of Niagara Police Services Board stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. I'm going to do a roll call at this time. Member Kiokio.
Present.
Member D'Angelo.
Present.
Member Eek.
Present.
Member Ip.
Present.
Joining us virtually, Member Lawson.
Present.
And Member McKendrick.
Present.
Thank you. And for those joining the first time, Pat and Laura are new members from the Niagara region. We welcome them to their very first meeting of the Police Services Board. So we look forward to working with you guys. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Adoption of the minutes. We have the 4.1 is minutes of the special finance meeting held November the 18th, 2022. If I could members D'Angelo and Eek move that the minutes of the special public finance committee meeting held Friday, November 18th, 2022 be adopted as circulated. Are there any questions? Anyone opposed? Those are carried. We have the minutes of the public board meeting Friday, November 18th, 2022. Members Lawson and D'Angelo, the minutes of the public board meeting held Friday, November 18th, 2022 be adopted as circulated. Are there any questions on those minutes? Anyone opposed? Those are carried. Report from the chair. And at this time, I'd like to officially welcome regional councillors Pat Kiokio and Laura Ip to the Police Services Board. They're attending their first Police Services Board meeting today, and our new members were sworn in on December 6th and 7th, and they are now officially able to participate in all our board business. On behalf of my colleagues on the board and the police service, we welcome you and your participation. Look forward to your contributions to this board as we move forward. Thank you. On behalf of the board, I would also like to welcome David Tilley virtually today to this meeting. David is with the Inspectorate of Policing at the Ministry of the Solicitor General, and he serves as Policing Services Advisor to police boards in Ontario. He is at the meeting today as part of routine visits by Policing Services Advisors to police boards, and the board is pleased to have David attend today, and we look forward to his continued participation at future board meetings. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
On November the 24th, the Regional Municipality of Niagara, held its inaugural meeting to officiate the commencement of the 2022-2026 term of Regional Council, followed by a reception held at John Michael's Banquet and Conference Center in Thorold. Board member Lawson attended the reception on behalf of the board, along with Chief McCullough and executive members to welcome our newest regional councillors. And on November the 29th, the Niagara Regional Police Service held an auxiliary swearing-in ceremony in the community room right here at police headquarters, and Vice Chair Eek and member Lawson attended the event along with Deputy Chief Flynn and members of the NRPS executive staff to welcome 11 new auxiliary officers and members of their families. The auxiliary team is an integral part of the Niagara Regional Police Service. Each year, auxiliary members provide the citizens of Niagara with thousands of volunteer hours of work and contribute to the good quality of life in Niagara's communities. The Canadian Association of Police Governance hosts monthly webinars as part of its educational strategy to keep police boards and police executives across Canada apprised of issues currently impacting the policing community. There was a webinar held on December the 6th entitled Measuring the Success of Police Leadership, which covered best practices and frameworks to measure the success of key executives. And the next webinar will be held on January 17th, and the topic is Board Police Commission Self-Evaluation, and connection details will be provided closer to that date. And on January 11th at 7 p.m., the service will be holding a swearing-in ceremony for 2 currently serving police officers and 5 new recruits who will be joining the Niagara Police Service. The ceremony will be held here at police headquarters, and board members are asked to confirm their attendance with board staff by January the 5th. And our next committee meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January the 12th. And the next monthly board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January the 26th. Both meetings are being held right here in the community room at police headquarters with a start time of 9 a.m. That ends my report. Any questions, members? Okay, now on to the chief's report. Brian?
Thanks very much, Chair. Good morning, board members. On behalf of the service, we'd like to extend our sincere welcome to Councillors Pat Chiocchio and Councillor Laura Yip, and welcome to the board. We look forward to working with you this next term of council. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. If any questions or concerns, we're happy to assist in that regard. Just one announcement regarding the Chief of Police holiday breakfast. It's the holiday season again, and the families that we normally support through community care certainly need our help more this year than ever before. With the impact of COVID, we haven't been able to host an in-person Chief of Police holiday breakfast. So like many things throughout the pandemic, we had to pivot and switch to an online fundraising platform. Realizing the success of last year's online holiday breakfast and knowing everyone's time is precious, we want to replicate it again this year. The online breakfast is an easy way to give back to and support our community during the holiday season. Contributors can visit the Niagara Region's website at www.niagararegion.ca/events/NRPS charity, where you can purchase gift cards in denominations of $15, $25, $50, or $100 using MasterCard or Visa. As in the past, all proceeds from this event will go towards sponsoring families through community care and will help put a smile on a child's face this Christmas morning. Some information with regards to our 2022 homicide and attempt homicide statistics. During the report period of November 16th to December the 13th, we did not have any homicides or attempt homicides. So far in 2022, we are sitting at 8 homicides and 7 attempts. And comparatively in 2021, we had 6 homicides, 3 attempts. 2020, we had 5 and 3. 2019, we had 7 homicides and 2 attempts. And 2018, we had 2 homicides and 8 attempts. Just an update for the board with regards to traffic fatalities and serious collision statistics. Current to November, there were 2 fatal motor vehicle collisions in November. And we did not have, fortunately, any life-threatening injury motor vehicle collisions. Year to date, we are sitting at 17 fatal collisions. And comparatively for all of 2021, we had 21 fatals. 2020, we had 16. In both 2018 and 2019, we had 13. And in 2017, we had 16 fatal fatalities or fatal collisions. Just some information about those 2 fatal collisions. On Friday, November the 4th at approximately 6:56 a.m., officers responded to a serious 2-vehicle collision on Sodom Road overpass at the QEW in Niagara Falls. It was determined that a minivan and a pickup truck had collided on the north side of the overpass. The 69-year-old female driver of the minivan was transported to an out-of-region hospital with life-threatening injuries. The driver of the pickup truck was not injured. On Monday, November 7th, the minivan's 69-year-old female driver unfortunately succumbed to her injuries. This collision remains under investigation by detectives with our collision reconstruction unit. The second incident occurred on Wednesday, November 23rd at approximately 6:03 p.m. when officers responded to Walden Boulevard west of Concession Road in Fort Erie for a serious personal injury collision. It was determined that an 82-year-old female was operating a motor vehicle when she collided with a 46-year-old male pedestrian who was walking along Walden Boulevard. The pedestrian was transported by ambulance to an out-of-town trauma center with life-threatening injuries. Female driver was not injured. And on Saturday, November the 26th, the male pedestrian succumbed to his injuries in hospital. And that collision also remains under investigation by our collision reconstruction unit. Just a couple of items in the news. In November of 2022, 3 district street crime detectives commenced an illegal drug trafficking investigation in the city of Welland. On November 23rd, detectives executed 2 search warrants at a residence near Memorial Park Drive and Quebec Avenue, and also near Ontario Road and Canal Bank Street in Welland. As a result of their investigation, detectives recovered 681 grams of suspected cocaine and 346 grams of suspected fentanyl, along with 238 grams of suspected crystal methamphetamine, with a combined estimated street value of approximately $200,000. Detectives seized a substantial amount of cash and proceeds of crime. 2 males from Welland have been arrested and charged with drug trafficking offenses, and 1 male has been charged with possession of proceeds of crime over $5,000. And on December the 6th, at about 10:55 p.m., 3 district officers responded to a report of a stabbing in Welland. Officers and EMS paramedics responded to a residence on McAlpine Avenue South, where a male victim in his 20s was located suffering from stab wounds. Victim was transported to a local hospital where he underwent further treatment and was initially believed to be life-threatening injuries that he had sustained. Investigation determined that a male suspect arrived in a vehicle, entered the victim's home, where the 2 became involved in an argument that escalated to a violent stabbing incident. The suspect left the scene prior to police officers' arrival. 3 district detectives were assigned the investigation, assisted by our forensic services unit. The victim underwent surgery for critical injuries, and it fortunately is expected to recover. Detectives were able to identify the suspect and locate his vehicle. A wanted person's media release was widely disseminated. And on Monday, December the 12th, the suspect attended headquarters here in Niagara Falls to turn himself in. He's been arrested and charged with aggravated assault, possession of a weapon for dangerous purpose, and 3 counts of failing to comply on a previous release order. That concludes my report this morning, Mr. Chair. Any questions? Happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chief. Are there questions to the chief today? Seeing none, great, thank you. Next is our consent agenda. These are done in block, so we have items 8.1 through to 8.5. If I could have members Kilkeo and D'Angelo move that the information be received. Are there any questions to any specific item? Member Eek?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. With respect to item 8.5, and I guess it's good news, the financial variance shows that we do have a surplus of approximately $1.2 million. But when I was reading the prior report, 8.4, it highlighted significant increases in overtime hours. The uniform service was up 12.5% and the civilian was up 40.6%. But I thought I might have seen some impact with respect to the year-to-date variance, but I guess in incremental, it's not that noticeable. I guess that my question is that correct? It's insignificant to the total.
So I'm just want to make sure I understand that question is the amount of projected surplus, that's the question. Is that accurate?
Yes, the projected surplus seemingly was not impacted by the prior report that indicated a significant increase in overtime hours. And I just want to relate that and weigh it up as to insignificant or significant with respect to overtime hours.
So with regards to the projected impact for this year's budget, at currently we are projecting a deficit of approximately $300,000. So there is overtime, which is in a previous or another report is certainly up, and there are a number of factors which are outlined in that report, which sort of summarize how we've gotten to that point, both in the civilian overtime and the uniform overtime. We continue to look at ways to mitigate the impact on the overall budget. But at this point in time, we are projecting a deficit of approximately $300,000.
Okay, thank you. Member D'Angelo?
Oh, thank you, Chair. It's regarding the same two reports. I was going to bring up that it seems like it's a good correlation. Overtime's up, but the deficit isn't that large. You would expect it to be larger. I just do have a couple questions regarding it's mainly the on 8.4, the minute it's on page 2, the bottom table there where it has an administrative workload. It's up quite a bit. It's almost 1,000 hours or short under there. I know part of that has to do with police checks, if I'm not mistaken. And I just wanted to be clear on that. With the police checks, are we going for full cost recovery of what it costs for that department to operate? Because the point I wanted to make is if we're not, then we should look at maybe increasing the fees to cover the extra workload that's required to meet the demands of that are out there. Maybe if you can just highlight that, or I know our Director of Finance is in here. I don't need an answer right now. That could come later if that's more acceptable to you, Chief.
So a couple of things that I can comment on with regards to the records check. So it is not a full cost recovery model, and as per the board's bylaw, we do outline a cost that's associated with the various levels of records checks that are completed, whether it's for volunteer, whether it's for employment, etc. We are in the throes of initiating a fingerprint-based records check system that will, we hope, actually turn out to be a revenue generator for the board and for the service, as opposed to costs incurred over and above the fees that are charged. So we are working with the vendor who has, we had hoped to be online with that by now, but there have been some technical glitches on their end. So we hope in the early part of 2023 to go live with that project. It should streamline the process for individuals who are looking to receive a records check, whether it's again for volunteer purposes or for employment purposes. So it's a good news story all the way around. It should streamline the process, and it should be a revenue generator for the service.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, that's an excellent answer. I appreciate that because I know that's always been an area where there's extra time put into that. So if we could either break even, have a little bit of revenue from it, and provide a quicker service, those are 3 wins for all of us, right? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Member Kyokyo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the chief. Throughout the reports, I keep reading the minimal staffing. So have some patience with me because I'm just learning this, and this is my first time reading all these reports. But in regards to minimal staffing, how is that established, and how does that affect the overtime hours and all that? What are the challenges? Is there challenges with the minimal effects? Who established them and how are they established? Like the numbers, I guess, are my questions.
Chief?
So the minimum staffing requirements were established in conjunction with the association and the board. They are contained in our collective agreement. The dates for the minimum staffings fluctuate based on day of the week and based on time of day, and usually corresponds with when our highest volume of calls of service is when our minimum staffing increases. So, and what was the other part of the question?
No, I think you've answered. What I was trying to get to is, was it established by the regulations, or but it's with the association, I take it.
And the
It's a
board,
collective
yes.
agreement.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Great, thanks. Any further questions on any other items? Or any items? Seeing none, anyone opposed? That's carried. Under new business, we have item 9.1. It's a request for federal funding to offset costs incurred to protect safe passageway on the international borders. Moved by members Eek and member Ip, that the board prepare a letter to the Honorable Marco Mendocino, Minister of Public Safety, Canada, to seek federal funding for costs incurred to protect the safe passageway on international bridges. Any questions on this one? Member D'Angelo?
Thank you, Chair. To me, I applaud the chief for coming forward with this report. That's something we talked about in past meetings, is some of these costs that are associated because of federal boundaries that should be tagged to the federal government. I don't know if they'll pay it, but it's a start to send it off, because I see they haven't paid Windsor and they haven't paid Ottawa, I believe was the other one. So, but it's a great start. So I do applaud that. The only thing I didn't see there, but I think we probably do this, is this letter going to the minister going to be copied to our local MPs to make sure they're aware of it and help put a bit of pressure on the minister?
Ms. Reed?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I will certainly do that. I'll make sure that our local MPs are copied on that letter as well.
Excellent. Since one of them was a former board member who understands this topic, I think it's good to have him in our corner. Thank you.
Yep. Great, thank you. Further questions? Anyone opposed? That's carried. 9.2 memorandum of understanding Niagara Emergency Medical Services. Moved by members Lawson and McKendrick. The board approved the memorandum of understanding between the Niagara Regional Police Service, Niagara Emergency Medical Services, and the Special Response Unit as appended to the report, and further that the chief of police be authorized to execute all required documentation on behalf of the board. Questions? Anyone opposed? That's carried. 9.3 is the NRPS Capital Project Automated License Plate Reader Grant Program. Members D'Angelo and Eek will move that the board approve a gross capital budget adjustment, the amount of $1,391,813 gross and zero net to procure automated license plate recognition technology funded solely by the Ministry of Solicitor General ALPR grant program, and further that the board forward this proposal to Regional Council for approval. Questions on this one? Anyone opposed? That's carried. 9.4 special fund request of the cold dinner program. Moved by members Ip and Lawson that the board approve a donation in the amount of $500 from the special fund to the Out of Reach Cold program. Before I ask for questions, Chief, do you want to just explain, because we do have two new members with regards to the funding for this and what the special fund is?
Sure. So in accordance with the Police Services Act, any property that comes into our possession as a police service, if we're not able to locate the rightful owner of that property, there are provisions within the legislation to have the auction or have an auction for those items. Monies that are generated from the auction are then converted over to the special fund. So we utilize this fund, and it's there's a board bylaw that governs the fund to fund sanctioned events that the service is involved in with local charities, typically. That would benefit, that we have a standing partnership with, and that would benefit from the funding. And usually the stipulation is that there's some NRPS member involvement with the activity as well.
Great, thanks, Chief. Is there any questions on item 9.4? Seeing none, anyone opposed? That's carried. 9.5, special fund request, Socks for Change program. Moved by members McKendrick and Kyokyo, that the board approve a special fund donation in the amount of $1,500 for the Socks for Change program. Questions? Seeing none, anyone opposed? That's carried. Item 9.6, special fund request NRPS K9 initiative. Moved by members D'Angelo and Eek, that the board approve a donation in the amount of $3,000 from the special fund to cover the initial cost of purchasing NRPS K9 stuffed animals to be sold to the public as a charitable initiative. Questions? Member D'Angelo?
Just a quick comment, just to remind the service that when you're sourcing products, try to find local ones or Canadian made products. Because you're going to be looking at getting some stuffed dogs here. If that could be done, it's not always the case, but sometimes it might be a little bit more expensive, but I'd rather have us source stuff from Niagara first if possible.
We'll certainly keep that in mind. I happen to have an example of one of the canines that in this case, it's an initiative that was undertaken by South Simcoe Police. And in this case, it's the police service dog Nitro. So we expect to generate a fair bit of publicity from this, and really a great community engagement to get the public involved, get our members of our canine unit involved, and we're anticipating that there'll be quite a draw for these stuffed animals.
Great, thank you, Chief. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to add another comment again to show my appreciation towards the canine unit. I know we do training for dogs for other jurisdictions, and we're highly regarded. Again, just want to applaud you and the canine unit for doing a great job. This is another great way of demonstrating the great events or a great skill set that we have here at the Niagara region, and that we're providing that across Ontario, even into the US. I've been to dog graduations where there's been dogs from Buffalo that have been trained here, which is great. So great way to highlight that also.
Great, thank you. Seeing no further questions, anyone opposed? That's carried. 9.7, special fund request NRPS Women in Police Internal Support Network Lunch and Learn Initiative. Moved by members Lawson and McKendrick. The board approved a donation in the amount of $3,000 from the special fund to cover the cost of hosting a lunch and learn sessions for Niagara Regional Police Service members. Questions on this one? Anyone opposed? That's carried. 9.8, special fund request International Police Hockey Tournament Women's Team Service Report, or sorry, I apologize. Moved by members Ip and Kyokyo, that the board approve a donation in the amount of $1,500 from the special fund to support the NRPS women's hockey team competing in the 2023 International Police Hockey Tournament. Questions? Anyone opposed? Carried. Do any of the members have any other business? Member Eek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do have an item I would like to speak to, and it's homeless in Niagara. And I'm addressing the crisis of homeless street people from an international perspective. The situation of homeless people who are living on the streets is in reality much larger than just a need for shelter. This is not only a local issue, but a Canada-wide issue that has for years not found a resolve. In the US, New York Mayor Eric Adams, a former police captain with over 20 years of service, a former state senator, and now New York's mayor, has a plan to address homeless people who are also struggling with mental health issues. This past January and February, he spent the time visiting with homeless people living in encampments and tents to assess and understand their issues and needs. His resolve is a plan to enforce a 2021 state law that allows for police to commit people in a mental health crisis who are in danger to themselves or others to be forcibly and involuntarily institutionalized. There has been a backlash to this plan by people who state, let's leave these people alone and leave them on the street. His response is that this would be committing an inhumane act and that we as citizens have a moral obligation to help others who cannot mentally look after their own basic personal needs. His plan is to provide training and build partnerships with mental health personnel, outreach personnel, and police officers to be able to make a determination if people can look after themselves. Then, if necessary, take them to facilities for further assessment and potential treatment by professional psychologists. New York City is dealing with 425 911 calls a day for emergency distressed people, EDP. Mayor Adams is now preparing to take this bold step to address mental homeless street people. I believe that we need to follow up on the progress of the mayor's plan to see if results are positive and could be adapted for our homeless situations. I am bringing this issue forward today to our board for awareness only. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thank you, Member Eek. Any other new business? Member Kilkeel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't know where to put, I didn't see where I could say this on the agenda. However, I will say it here. I just want to thank yourself and the staff and the members for welcoming me here today, and Laura here today. It's a great honor to be here, and I'm very excited to be working for the next 4 years. I know you've done some fabulous work in the last 4 years, so I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any further new business?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, Chief.
Just wondering if I could provide some comments with regards to Member Eek's
Certainly.
comments earlier. I think it would be remiss to not acknowledge the fact that we have great working relationships with the outreach teams from Niagara region. Our core unit visits the encampments with the outreach workers on a daily basis. They have great relationships with them. If need be, they have the ability to, again, coordinate with Niagara EMS to bring in any medical assistance that may be required for these individuals who are living in encampments. The unfortunate reality that we are seeing here in Niagara is that homelessness has become certainly much more prevalent than it has been in years past. But I think we have to acknowledge and realize that being homeless is not a crime. And there are provisions within the Mental Health Act at the present time where if somebody is deemed to be mentally incompetent and a danger to themselves or others, there are provisions already to apprehend somebody who is in that state. Again, I think what we have in place is working very well. It's a coordinated effort with multiple stakeholders. And with the goal being that we, nobody chooses to be homeless, quite frankly. So I think we try to approach it from a very compassionate perspective and offer assistance anywhere we can. And I think that will be our focus going forward.
Member Eek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for your comments, Chief. Certainly, I wasn't bringing this up to indicate that we, as a police service, is ignoring or not following up with the needs that are required for people that are suffering from mental illness. It's just that there's another plan or program here that whether or not it can be effective. And I think from listening to you, I am always concerned with what's the next step. We have the legal right to administer some form of help for medical services, but where do we place them in order for people that may have a stronger sense of schizophrenia or something? I was doing some readings, and back in the 1920s, mental health became very prominent, and we developed a lot of institutions to serve people, reintegrate them, and hopefully resolve their situations, provide them necessary comfort, food, and lodgings. And then down into the 70s, they seemed to lapse and were seen as detrimental to the mental health people. And I think we're almost going through another cycle again, and it's rising up again now, mental health. And where do we place these people if we do choose under the rights of legal steps to seek help? Our hospitals are full. We don't seem to, there's a gap, I think, that's there that needs some attention. And certainly we're not going to resolve it. And I think part of this was a letter I requested at our last meeting to support, what agency did you send that out? That was Peel, I believe. Durham.
Yeah.
And I was pleased that Chief Yu and our board chair signed that in support of situations such as this, that we need a federal, provincial, and local assessment and steps forward to come up with some positive resolves. And I think we keep walking around the elephant in the room as much as we want to, but as you say, mental health is rising, and what can we do really to stop this? So I commend our service, and I'd be very proud to indicate the steps that we are doing, and I'm pleased with that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Member McKendrick?
Yeah, and thank you for your attention to the very real concern, Member Eek. It would be remiss of me, and I don't want to repeat anything that the chief or others have said, but I do want to take the opportunity to ensure that with bringing forward information, that it's not missed that homelessness is not equal to mental illness or mental health issues. Quite often, homelessness can lead to mental health concerns, but mental illness is not the cause of homelessness. And I think for information purposes, and if we're looking at solutions, we do have the Mental Health Act, which allows us to trample on the rights of people who are unsafe or need treatment involuntarily, while also respecting the rights of people and their own situations. I think it may be more important to look at the social determinants of health and the other pieces of our society that are contributing to homelessness. So affordable housing, food security, employment rates, ability to participate and access education that allows people to be employed, equity and discrimination, landlord and tenant acts, and racism that we can find in those systems, I think would maybe a more impactful way to look at how to address homelessness. And I just don't want us to equate homelessness with mental illness, because that is not the correlation. So thank you for your attention to it. And there's definitely a lot of good work being done and a lot of good partnerships in place. We do have similar abilities in Canada right now. And I do think there's probably more impact in looking at those other pieces that are leading people to find themselves in the position of being homeless. So thank you for your attention to the matter.
Great. Thank you, Member McKendrick. Chief?
Perhaps just to put some context to, we've talked about the homeless, but we haven't really put a number to that. And based on the current data that the region has, as of November 30th, we're talking about 1,061 individuals who have been identified as experiencing homelessness. And the number of active chronically homeless. Again, I don't know the specific definition, but I believe there's a time frame associated with the amount of time that somebody has been identified as experiencing homelessness. That number is at 534. So it's again, it's an alarming number, quite frankly. And there are, as Member McKendrick has pointed out, there are a number of factors that cause somebody to live homeless, and mental health is certainly not the only cause. There are many other social determinants that can cause that. And in our letter that was drafted to the Minister of the Solicitor General, we're certainly calling upon the development of a provincial strategy, which I think is really, really important to address what is quickly becoming a crisis all across Ontario and quite frankly, all across Canada.
Great. Member Eek?
I don't wish to debate this, but I think it's a serious discussion in that I didn't want to infer that homeless people were always as a result of mental illness. It's just that the mental illness is one of the key factors that is difficult to address. And I know we have partnerships and we are doing and endeavoring to do our very best to address that. I don't think I mentioned when I indicated in prior years, and that we seem to be in a cycle that back in the 70s, we started to close large institutions that service people that were in mental health. I don't know whether it's the right term used to when I was young, Hamilton on the Hill or Toronto on Queen Street facility, and they've disappeared. And the concern is the absence on the need for addressing the mental health. It's one small portion, and I reference this with Mayor Eric Adamson from New York because it's a very delicate issue as Member Tara has indicated. So we'll just watch. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not here to debate it, but maybe it's something we can pursue as one of many options that we are trying to seek for a permanent resolve. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any further new business? Seeing none, item 11, there are no in-camera reports. And just for members, Ip and Kilkeo, these are reports that come forward from our confidential meetings. So they could be things like SIU reports that have been complete and they're released to the public. So this would be the meeting where we release those out to public. It goes on our website, and that just so you guys know. It's a little bit different than the in-camera sessions we have at the region. Before we go to adjournment of this meeting, I'd like to take this opportunity to extend the board's best wishes for the holiday season. While these continue to be challenging times for all of us, I would ask that we all think of our most vulnerable members of the communities, including those less fortunate. The holiday season is a time for joy and giving, but for families and individuals going through hard times, it can be painful. Please consider reaching out or dropping off food and necessities for them. Donations to the Chief's holiday breakfast, community care, the United Way, or charity of your choice within your municipality will help families and individuals who may be struggling during the holiday season. Throughout this season, and as we move into a new and hopefully better year, we wish everyone peace and connections with family and friends. On behalf of myself and the Niagara Police Services Board, I'd like to wish everyone a very safe and happy holiday season and best wishes for the new year. At this time,